Hi guys. Crazy Rich Asians, but with a murder. Not a shock at all, and that is Book a Night by Holly Black. So this is a Peter Pan reimagining. It's spooky, ooky, creepy. This book was just weird. So someone who's very famous, someone who is timeless, that's kind of who Evelyn Hugo is. Sit here and help mommy? You want to sit here and help mommy do the last of her books? The way this book ended had me screaming, crying. Hello book friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Kaylin and I hope you are doing so lovely. Welcome to another video. I hope you guys are doing well. I hope you guys have something yummy to eat and something yummy to sip on, whether it's hot, cold, preferably hot because it is December. Unless you're on the other side of the world, then it's summer for you guys, but grab something to drink and eat, and let's get right into today's video. Okay, so for today's video, I thought it would be fun to go through my Goodreads and see which books are the highest rated books according to Goodreads that I've read in 2022, and which books are the lowest rated books according to Goodreads that I read in 2022. So, have no fear, I've already done the research, I've already went through my shelf, which is why if it looks a little bare, that is why, because they're all sitting in front of me. I've compiled a table on Notion because I am an avid Notion user. I love Notion. And we're just gonna like hop right into it. So I have my laptop here. I have my Notion table pulled up. I think I'm going to start with the lowest rated books. And then I'm gonna go from like highest, lowest rated to lowest rated. Does that make sense? Is that English? Probably not, but we're gonna do that. And I'll kind of give you guys the average rating, my thoughts, stuff like that. So let's just get right into it, shall we? First book we're going to start with is number 5 for the lowest rated book, and that is You're Invited by Amanda Giattista? We all know, if you watch my channel, that I do not do pronunciation well. So I was surprised to see this on the top 5 of the lowest rated books I read this year because I really enjoyed this book. The average rating for this book was a 3.56. I rated this book a 4-star. I just remember loving this book. The writing is really good. I thought it was gripping. Was the twist surprising? No, not at all. But, you know, I was just along for the ride. This book felt like, what's that movie? Oh, Crazy Rich Asians, but with a murder. That's what this book felt like. And if you guys love Crazy Rich Asians, you guys should check this book out. Basically what this book is about is we're following Amma, who gets invited to her ex-best friend's wedding, who she hasn't spoken to in years, and it turns out her ex-best friend is marrying her ex-boyfriend. And when she gets there, things aren't as it seems. Everyone's kind of confused as to why she is there because the way things were left. And when they get to the wedding, someone turns up dead, and it's like, who did it? So I really enjoyed this book. If you're looking for a, like, I would say maybe a cozy thriller, one that you can sit down and just get lost in and not really be on the edge of your seat, you know, you're just there for like the mystery element, I would say go for this one because I really like this one despite what Goodreads says. Coming in at number 4 was not a shock at all, and that is Book a Night by Holly Black. This is Holly Black's first adult fantasy novel, and all I can say about this book is she did try. I think if you listen to this on audio and go on with zero expectations, you will like it. So what this book is about is we're following Charlie, who helps glow mist, I think, or stealing musicians' magic, something like that. And she is getting away from that life. She's now bartending, and she has a sister named Posey who is magicless and is desperate for magic. Charlie also has this boyfriend named Vince who is shadowless and is kind of secretive about stuff, and he's keeping a lot of things from Charlie. So when someone returns from Charlie's past and needs her help, she has to go back down that hole that is her past and kind of deal with things. So, you know, the idea and the plot for this book I think was really good, but overall it just didn't hit. It didn't give what it needed to give, you know? So the average rating for this book is a 3.55. I gave this book a 3-star. Coming in at number 3 is Darling Girl. So this is a Peter Pan reimagining, and this is a Peter Pan reimagining that I haven't seen done before, and the concept was cool. It wasn't good. So this book, we follow Wendy, who is a granddaughter of Holly Darling. Wendy has 2 kids. She has a son named Jack, and then she also has a daughter named Eden, who has been in a coma for basically her entire life, and she keeps her tucked away, hidden. She doesn't really talk about her. She doesn't really mention her to Jack. Like, Jack has no idea he has a sister because he was so young when this accident happened. But when Eden turns up missing, Wendy knows who did it, and she thinks it's Peter Pan who stole Eden, and now she has to go and find her daughter. So I was really excited to read this book after reading the summary, and it didn't give. The average rating for this book is a 3.51. I gave this book a 2-star. Coming in at number 2 is The Taking of Jake Livingston. I was surprised that this was in the top 2 because I did like this book. I think that it's definitely higher over some of the other books on this list. Like, I for sure think this should have been higher than Darling Girl, but you know, it's average rating on Goodreads. I can't do anything about it. So in this one, we're following Jake, who is actually a median, and he is being stalked by this ex-school shooter, and he has him part of his plans, and it's spooky, ooky, creepy. It's what you want to read during Halloween, and I actually really, really liked this book. The average rating for this book is a 3.47, and I gave this book a 3-star.
Hi, it's Editing Kaylin here. So I'm editing this video, and I didn't realize that you can hear my cat snoring, who is right here. So I apologize, but if you hear that noise, it's kind of like a humming noise, a breathing. It's my cat snoring. He was in the cat tower next to me. So I'm very sorry, but enjoy the video.
Coming in at number 1 as the lowest rated book I read for the entirety of 2022 was no surprise to me because I quite literally hated this book. And that is Lord of the Fly Fest. This book was just weird. So in this one, we're following Rappy, who runs a true crime podcast that deals with like the music mysteries of the world, and she wants to go to this so she buys a ticket to go to the Fly Festival, which there is going to be this musician there whose girlfriend disappeared, and she thinks he killed her. And so she goes there, and when she gets there, things are not what was promised. There's no festival, basically. There's a little bit of tents, and they send food, but it's literally like a turkey sandwich and not even a good one. And so they're all stuck on this island. You have a bunch of unlikable characters. Actually, every single character in this book is very unlikable, and it just, I don't know, the execution of the whole thing wasn't great. It was very out of this world what actually happened to the girlfriend. Like, that's something that I don't think really happens a lot, and it was just not good. So the average rating for this book is a 3.21, and I gave this book a 1-star. Moving on to the fun section, and that is the highest rated books that I've read in 2022 according to Goodreads. Now, a lot of these didn't surprise me because of the resurface of them on Book Talk. I think Book Talk has had a lot of influence on the average rating of books in the world nowadays and the sale of books. I am on Book Talk. I've been on it for 2 years, but I will say, not to be that person, but I have been a reader my entire life. I remember watching BookTube back in the day when people would still go to buy books on release day, get back so excited and read them in the same day. Like, that era of BookTube when, like, A Court of Thorns and Roses series was just coming out. I remember being a part of it. I wasn't a part. I watched from my comfort of my home, and I wanted to be a part of it, but I never had the confidence. Anyways, so seeing these books resurface was fun to see, like, all the new readers experience these books for the first time. But also, when it comes to rating, it's kind of like there's so many other new good books that came out this year that deserve those spots instead of like these books. That these books have had their time to shine. Not that there's like a limit on the time that they can shine, but I don't know, I just think there was so many other books that come to mind that should have had these spots, but you know what, it's alright. So we're just going to do the same thing we do with the lowest rated and go from my lowest, highest rated book all the way up to the highest rated book. Now, to preface this, a lot of these were rereads for me, which, am I part of the issue of making these average ratings go up? Probably, but you know what, it's okay. Coming in at number 5 is Muse of Nightmares. Now, this is the second book in the Strange the Dreamer duology. I really enjoyed myself when reading Strange the Dreamer and Muse of Nightmares. However, I will say I did like Strange the Dreamer a lot better than Muse of Nightmares. Not to say I didn't love this book. So I'm not going to tell you what this book is about because it's a second in a duology and it's the final, and I don't really want to like give anything away. The average rating for this book is a 4.44, and I gave this book a 4-star. Coming in at number 4 is The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This was a reread for me. However, the first time I read this book was 2 years ago, and it was on audio, so I've never physically read it, so technically I read it for the first time. We all know my love for Taylor Jenkins Reid and this book, but if you guys don't know what this book is about, we meet Evelyn Hugo, and picture her as like a very elegant, classy, old Hollywood star, someone who's very famous, someone who is timeless. That's kind of who Evelyn Hugo is. She's decided she wants to write a book about her life and all of her secrets that she has never told before anywhere, and she gives the job to someone you would have never expected to, and that is Monique, who is a writer for a magazine, and she gets this interview and somehow their stories weave together. So she spends a lot of time with Evelyn writing her story. She finds out all her secrets, and you basically find out like who her greatest love was along the way, and it's just an amazing story. To me, this book deserved the number 1 spot, but you know, I can't do anything about it. So the average rating for this book is a 4.46, and I give this book a 4-star.
Editing Kaylin again. That was a big fat lie. I gave this book a 5-star. I don't know why I said a 4-star. I gave it a 5-star. So sorry about that, but continue on. I don't think I'm popping in here anymore, but carry on.
If you guys heard a bunch of meowing and jingling, it was my cat in the last clip. He just woke up from his nap. Say hello, hello. Now, these last 3 books were no surprise at all. Like I said, with the resurface of these books on Book Talk, I was not shocked to see these. Was I disappointed? Kind of, but you know what? It's okay. So let's just get right into it. So coming in at number 3 is House of Earth and Blood. I did a reread this year because I never read this book physically. I listened to it through audio and I wanted to annotate it. So I got it and reread it because House of Sky and Breath was coming out, and it had been a year. No, it had been 2 years since reading, right? Was it 2 years difference? Yeah, it was a 2 years right? It was a 2 year, yeah. It had been 2 years since I read House of Earth and Blood, so I kind of forgot a little thing, so I just needed to like refresh my memory. So therefore I did contribute to the average rating. I'm sure we all know what this book is about by now. This is Sarah J. Maas's adult fantasy series, or new adult. I think it's adult though. So we follow Bryce Quinn, who is kind of the party girl. She works in this museum and she has a great life. She lives with her best friend Danica, and when a murder happens, her world gets turned upside down, and she wants to find out what happens, and she's aligned with Hunt Atler, who is an archangel, and they go on through this journey to solve what happened to the person that got murdered. And that's all I'm really going to say, because I don't want to give anything away. I feel like any little detail will give something away in this book. But just note, this is definitely worth the info dumpy you get in the beginning. I do know a lot of people thought this book was really slow, and that is because you get a lot of information about the world. But push through it because it definitely is worth it, I think. The average rating for this book is a 4.48, and I gave it a 5-star. Coming in at number 2 was House of Sky and Breath. Now, This was a new release this year, so no shock that this was in the top 2 spots. Honestly, this was one I knew was going to be up there. This one is the second book in the Crescent City series. This one is so good. I know there's kind of a lot of mixed opinions with this book, but I really, really enjoyed myself with this book. I thought it was really good. I think it sets up the rest of the world. We were left with a lot of questions. The way this book ended had me screaming, crying, throwing the book. I needed more. And all I can say is I really hope Miss Mass does not make us wait 2 years to get the other book, because I need to know what happened. So again, I am not going to tell you guys what this book is about because it is a second book in a series, but just know it's really good. So this book, the average rating was a 4.52, and I gave this book a 5-star. Number 1 book that I read this year, according to Goodreads, was a shock, but not a shock. Because once I sat and thought about it, I was like, okay, that makes sense because, again, of the attention this series has gotten. This was a reread for me, and to be fair, it's been like 7 years since I read this book, I think. So it was kind of like reading it for the first time again, and so seeing it in the number 1, I was like, a lot of people discovered this series this year. A lot of people reread this series. It makes sense. So I'm just going to show you guys. So number 1 spot goes to A Court of Mist and Fury. This is the second book in the A Court of Thorns and Roses series, and arguably this is the best book in the series, is what I thought when I first read this series. Rereading it, I don't know, because it took me forever to get through this book. I liked the second half way more than I liked the first half of this book. So I don't know anymore. It's been a very long time since I've read A Court of Wings and Ruin, and that was the last book I read in the series because there was no other book out at the time. So I need to read A Court of Wings and Ruin to see which one is my favorite. But I, again, was not shocked, but I was shocked. I was really hoping maybe another book would be in the number 1 spot, but I don't know. So the average rating for this book is a 4.62, and I gave this book, I think, a 4 stars. When I first read this book, I gave it a 5 stars, and it went down a star, just because, like, my feelings have changed, and I've grown, so that's that. And that brings us to the end of this video. Very shocking results, not so shocking. This was kind of fun to do before I did my opinion on my top books of the year. So if you guys do this and you go through your Goodreads to see, let me know your highest or your lowest rated book of the year, or both. Let me know, because I'm kind of curious now. So yeah, that brings us to the end of the video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, give it a big thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe because I would love to have you here. If you don't already, you can follow me on my social medias. They are always linked down below for you guys. There are some links in the description box to help support my channel. If you guys want to, no pressure at all, but they are there. And I hope you guys are doing well, and I hope you guys are reading lots of good books, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.